Colombia Quake kills hundreds. Trump signs vaccine order. Assad sentenced to death. And Ukraine strikes Russian refinery. Greetings, humanity. Let's Grok the news. We cover the world's headlines, but first, a deep dive into the most important story in the world today. Dateline, Bogota, Colombia. A powerful magnitude 7.4 earthquake struck western Colombia early yesterday, killing at least 132 people and leaving thousands more missing or injured as rescue teams worked through the night. The tremor hit at 7:34 local time near the town of San Jose del Palmar in the Choco department at a depth of about 100 kilometers. It was the strongest quake to hit the country in decades and was felt hundreds of miles away in the capital Bogota as well as in neighboring Ecuador and Panama. Newly inaugurated President Abelardo de la Espriella has declared a national state of emergency and said the top priority remains pulling survivors from the rubble. De la Espriella took office only 3 days earlier on August 7th. He canceled other plans, flew to Bogota, and later visited the hard-hit areas of Quibdó and Cali to oversee the response in person. In his first public address after the disaster, he reported 111 confirmed deaths and 87 injured, with more than 1,500 homes damaged, 37 completely destroyed, and 61 buildings collapsed. Later updates from the Colombian Association of Capital Cities and local officials pushed the death toll still higher, with some reports citing 164 dead and more than 880 injured. Citizen-run websites listed over 2,700 to 3,000 people as unaccounted for. The coffee-growing city of Pereira has suffered some of the most damage, with at least 60 deaths reported there, including 3 at the partially collapsed Matacana International Airport. In Cali, the country's third-largest city, officials said dozens were killed, and 188 remained missing at one point. 32 buildings collapsed in Cali alone. A nighttime curfew was imposed and 1,000 security personnel were ordered into the city amid reports of looting. Other deaths were confirmed in Manizales, where a cathedral tower fell, and in smaller numbers across Valle del Cauca, Chaco, Caldas, and Antioquia departments. 7 airports have suspended operations because of structural damage, including those in Pereira, Manizales, Quibdó, Armenia, Cartago, Cali, and Buenaventura. 18 highways were also affected. Rescuers, police, soldiers, and volunteers dug by hand in many places because heavy equipment could not reach every site quickly. Videos from the scene showed people climbing over piles of concrete and twisted metal, calling out for trapped relatives. Hospitals in 5 cities went on red alert. Aftershocks continued, with the largest measuring magnitude 5.0. The Colombian Geological Service and the United States Geological Survey both confirmed the main shock parameters. International offers of help arrived from across Latin America and beyond. The United States announced $15.5 million in immediate aid for shelter, food, and emergency needs. President de la Espriella called for national unity, regardless of political differences, and said the government would provide rent subsidies for those who lost homes. He ordered a unified command post to coordinate the effort and asked mayors of Bogota and Medellin for additional rescue personnel. The earthquake struck just days after de la Espriella was sworn in, making it the first major test of his new administration. Search operations continue this morning under clear skies in some areas, cloudy conditions in others, with officials warning that the final toll would rise as more bodies are recovered and missing persons lists are refined. The disaster has left entire neighborhoods uninhabitable and has tested the country's emergency systems at the very start of a new presidential term. I'm Robert Gardner, using Grok each weekday to truthfully summarize the news. I serve it up with my opinions. I had no opinions in the last broadcast, but there may be some in the world headlines coming up right after this. God with Us, the story of Jesus, blends the Gospels into one inspired narrative. Divided into daily Bible studies, this book presents the story of Jesus from his birth to his ascension. Find God With Us by me, Robert Gardner, at Amazon.com. Now we grok the news with headlines from around the world. Dateline, Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump signed an executive order calling for a reduced childhood vaccine schedule limited to 11 core immunizations and recommending that the measles, mumps, rubella shot be split into separate doses given at different visits. Medical groups, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, called the order dangerous and said it lacks scientific support. This observer will tell you that the American Academy of Pediatrics is wrong. The lack of scientific support is for vaccine testing. They haven't tested many of these vaccines in human trials. And it's absurd, the absolute number of vaccines being forced into infants and toddlers. Absurd. Our peer nations, that is to say, other first world nations with advanced medical technology, do nothing of the kind, and they're doing fine. Dateline, Ankara, Turkey. Multiple U.S. officials confirmed that President Donald Trump was secretly moved by a catering truck from Air Force One to a military jet during the July NATO summit because of a credible Iranian assassination threat that targeted his aircraft. The elaborate deception used the presidential plane and the media pool as decoys. This observer is glad that somebody finally found a decent use for the media pool. Dateline, Damascus, Syria. A Syrian criminal court has sentenced ousted President Bashar al-Assad to death in absentia. This was just this morning. This was for premeditated murder, torture, and crimes against humanity during the civil war. His cousin Ataf Najib received the same sentence after appearing in court. And so did his brother. Dateline, Nizhnekamsk, Russia. A Ukrainian drone strike has killed at least 13 people, including a child, injuring dozens at an oil refinery complex in Tatarstan, hundreds of miles from the border. Russian authorities called it a terrorist attack, while Ukraine confirmed the energy facility was targeted. Dateline, Manila. The Armed Forces of the Philippines has reported monitoring 18 Chinese vessels in the West Philippine Sea between August 4th and 10th. The ships included Coast Guard and militia craft operating near disputed features, including the famous Scarborough Shoal. That's where the Philippines maintain an armed presence aboard a rusting hulk that has been marooned on that shoal for decades. Dateline, Zhejiang, China. Typhoon Dolphin made landfall on China's eastern coast with winds near 150 kilometers per hour. That's fast, folks. Forcing more than 1 million evacuations and the cancellation of over 1,300 flights in Shanghai. The storm also intensified the monsoon rains across the northern Philippines. Dateline, Tanegashima, Japan. The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency has successfully launched an H-3 rocket carrying the Michibiki No. 7 positioning satellite into orbit. The flight marked the second consecutive success for this flagship rocket after a previous failure. That's how it is in the world of rocketry. Dateline, Baguio, the Philippines, where search teams recovered the 10th body from a landslide triggered by intensified monsoon rains in the mountain city of Baguio. Overall, weather-related deaths across the country reached 19 as class suspensions continued in Luzon. Dateline, Istanbul. Turkish lawmakers approved a bill offering limited amnesty and reintegration terms for thousands of Kurdish PKK militants. The measure advances the government's long-running peace initiative with this insurgent group. Dateline, New York, New York. A federal judge has dismissed criminal fraud and bribery charges against Indian billionaire Gautam Adani and related parties. The ruling ends a case that had drawn significant attention both in the United States and India. Dateline, Guwahati, India. Heavy monsoon rains caused the Brahmaputra River and other waterways to overflow in Assam state, killing approximately 100 people and displacing thousands of residents. Rescue and relief operations remained underway today. Here's a dateline from Ranchi, India. Thousands of students protested alleged irregularities in the civil service examinations in Jharkhand, facing police use of tear gas and batons. The state BJP called a statewide shutdown for today, while the chief minister urged dialogue. Dateline Suva, Fiji. Pacific leaders criticized a recent Chinese ballistic missile test into the Pacific Ocean as inappropriate and harmful to regional peace goals. The launch occurred hours after Fiji and Australia signed a major defense treaty. Dateline Tokyo. Japanese government sources said Bank of Japan Governor Kazuo Ueda's signal of a possible September rate hike prompted the United States to join Japan in the first coordinated yen-buying intervention in 28 years. Dateline London in the UK. Authorities declared drought status across nearly three-quarters of England after the driest July on record. Water restrictions expanded in several regions while rivers have reached historic low levels. Dateline Moscow. Russia's Supreme Court has barred the Yabloko Party, the only registered anti-war political group, from participating in upcoming parliamentary elections over its peace platform. The decision further limits opposition voices. Dateline Montgomery, Alabama, in the United States. Alabama voters are going to the poll today for a second round of congressional primaries after court-ordered redistricting has changed the district maps away from what the judges were insisting on to what the legislature voted for. Officials expressed concern about possible voter confusion and low turnout. Officials really don't believe in the voters. That's what officials do. Dateline Colombia, South Carolina. South Carolina Republicans are holding a primary today to choose a nominee for the United States Senate seat previously held by the late Lindsey Graham. The contest comes only months after his sister's earlier nomination. And Dateline Hanoi. Vietnamese aerospace company VinSpace has signed a contract with SpaceX to launch its first satellites in 2027. The agreement marks a significant step in Vietnam's emerging space program. I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again Grok the News. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.